Thank you for giving me this opportunity to join this session and present the government of Pakistan's initiatives in terms of investment in this very important segment of FinTech in and around the initiatives that the government's public sector is taking to uplift uplift the GDP of Pakistan in the very first phase, where we feel that the growth of fintech is going to be one of the most dominant segments, which can take Pakistan to the next level. In context of creating the new skill set, creating opportunities for growth, creating opportunities, to enhance this very extremely important segment across which Pakistan has been lagging for a while. I would just start my discussion around the role of the government of Pakistan in enabling investment in infrastructure around fintech, where we have taken some significant steps in the last few months, or especially in the last couple of years, which has given an avenue for the public as well as the private sector both to create new technologies, to create new applications, to create all of that kind of an infrastructure which is required for Pakistan to grow, in the context of creating, or enhancing rather the tax base for the government, and uplifting the GDP of the government, federal government at large, as well as the provincial governments. So if you look around the South Asia in general, what has happened in the last 2 years is, specific in the last 2 years, that the consumer-oriented services, has taken a new definition. People have realized that they cannot they just do not need applications in and around the digital growth of the financial applications that they have been using, but they've also figured it out over the period of time that fintech is also is going to provide them opportunities to create new businesses, to create new opportunities, to enhance their own business segments, which they've been doing in a very rudimentary and a very archaic kind of ways. If we look around specifically Pakistan in this particular segment, specifically with the lens of fintech adoption index, we have actually seen almost 1/3 of consumers utilizing at least 2 or more fintech services, and those consumers are predominantly has been increasingly aware of fintech as part of their daily lives. I mean, think about digital wallets, think about payment gateways, which have been used domestically at large now. Think about digital platforms where customers, in the context of government, citizens have started adopting payment systems using different mobile platforms that have been built by either telecom service providers or the third parties coming in. We see Pakistan at this point in time, the way that we've taken initiative at the government level, there's a huge potential of fintech growth in Pakistan, especially in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic and the reduced economic growth in other conventional industries. People have felt, and the government has also felt, that we should be giving ample opportunities to people in terms of creating policies, so that they should feel compelled to invest not only in the fintech infrastructure, but also in terms of adoption, also trying to give them incentives to adopt more and more digital, to leverage the digital financial services which government has initiated for them or the private sector. this we have actually predicted a huge, a boost in the economic growth in the coming 12 to 18 months down the road, based upon the kind of policies that we have created at the government level and modified to facilitate the general public, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more, in a few slides, which I actually built, to present. But I think there is some technical, glitch also, that the slides are not being presenting. But I'll just go through a few of the initiatives that we have taken. There has been a lot of discussion around Pakistan regulatory policies, that what Pakistan has done in terms of triggering the infrastructure investment around the fintech space. Government, State Bank of Pakistan, which is the lead regulatory authority for financial services, has, I think, fairly done a good job in terms of creating a regulation framework, based upon which they have given almost a dozen licenses to the fintech companies in the context of um, payment system operators, payment service providers, as well as the branchless banking regulations that they have given a very clear framework. Um, Amongst those almost like dozen companies which have been licensed to play in this particular area, almost half of them are actually live, and they are providing services, to the length and breadth of the citizens of Pakistan across across the rural and the urban geographies as well. Um, the drivers of fintech growth has predominantly, as I've just mentioned, especially in the last 1 year, has taken a giant stride. We were lagging behind a little bit already in terms of adoption of fintech applications, as well as investment also. I think in the last 1 year, once the COVID-19 and the pandemic has hit pretty hard across the world, people have realized that, people have realized all over the globe, but Pakistan in general, that we got to have, digital services, created in the first place, so that we stay away from the public at large, where we used to see long queues, long lines outside the government offices to leverage the services of the government departments. So there has been in the last 1 year, we have created a lot of digital application streams to and then given access to the common citizens through their mobile apps, or through their digital systems, their digital workstation sitting at home or in the office, so that they should be able to at least fulfill the conventional kind of services that they've been doing it for a very long time, to where they had to stand either in the queues outside the banks, or in the queues outside the government offices. So digital payment gateways, we have created lots and lots of linkages across the applications that we have that we initiated for the government servants, and as well as the citizens at large. So the ingress of the people should not be that prevalent and not pervasive, in the public at large. So I think that has worked pretty well for us. We are en route to actually create Islamabad as a model city, where the citizens should feel very comfortable, fulfilling all of these digital services, from application uh, to digital payments, and in fact getting the services at their home, by utilizing all these different kind of fintech application platforms that we have built for them. Basically, what we have done at the government level, in the first phase, that we have tried to introduce and integrate as much as technologies as possible to facilitate the citizens in terms of enhancing the ease of business for the citizens, towards the government services. And I think we have done a fairly good job in terms of at least creating the interest of the people and giving them the confidence that this particular segment, where they have not been very keen to adopt, but since the time and the the time and the challenge is so big that leveraging all of these services are going to give them not just a comfort to to fulfill all these services at home, but they will also find a way to create, to enhance their own business segments, which were taking a nosedive in this particular, social challenging conditions that we have. State Bank has also been helping all of these upcoming fintech companies by very clearly profiling and classifying the different, fintech services and creating a very clear segment in terms of licensing, in terms of profiling and classification. What kind of fintech companies State Bank is going to promote in the next few years down the road? So branchless banking, outsourcing, intermediaries, digital lending, and digital payments, are a few of the classifications that classification of fintech that State Bank has done. And on the other side of the house, there have been significant amount of companies which have just been registered in the last few years in the context of all of these classifications, and they've started their services. I mean, to name a few, our service providers, telecom service providers, they have started, digital wallets, which have taken, at a very fast, accelerated pace in terms of adoption by the citizens. Jazz Cash, Easy Pesa, the digital wallets. There are online portal development, that has been, in a quite, at a pace which we were not anticipating, a few years. But once the regulations and the frameworks been put in place by State Bank, we have seen big data analytics company like Red Buffer and Love for Data coming up with all those different kind of application platforms that the citizens actually wanted, to leverage before they could, adopt the digital applications that they always wanted to. So credit scoring, the consultancy, right, in this particular context of fintech, how they should leverage different kind of banking services with what the citizens actually wanted. Digital payment gateways have just been launched and readily being adopted by the citizens. There's a great success story of Finja's SimSim, payment platform, which has created, I think, a huge confidence, given the citizens a huge confidence that these kind of things where Pakistan was, was falling behind, but these kind of applications, these kind of companies have given a lot of confidence for the citizens of Pakistan who had considerably on the lower end of the totem pole in terms of literacy, that these things can also be adopted and leveraged by the common citizens who do not know, these kind of applications that ever existed. So I think we feel very good at the government level at the moment that the deployment and adoption of new technology will be catalyzing the adoption of fintech applications, and citizens need, and the citizens want to create businesses out of it. What we are doing at this point in time at the government level, an extremely important initiative, is how we should build now policies to attract the foreign investment in the fintech space. So there are two things which the foreign investors have demanded from the government. Is either number one is, if we are coming into Pakistan and invest in the fintech space, what is that? I mean, what kind of a comfort level we're going to get that the ROI that we have built in terms of the business case based upon which we're going to invest, how can we funnel the our investment in and out of Pakistan comfortably. So about since the last 2 years, the investors who've been coming into Pakistan, they've been feeling very reluctant to invest big chunks of money, like Series A and Series B kind of investment. It was hardly unheard of, but we have now en route to creating, that kind of a funnel for foreign and local investors. That whatever return that they have presented to their shareholders in the first place, that investment can be funneled easily in and out of Pakistan within a specific framework that the State Bank of Pakistan is going to give it to them. So, in this context, we have seen lots and lots of interest at the moment, where the foreign investment companies who can see, a huge opportunity in Pakistan to come and invest and take the fintech industry to the next level and take it at par with the likes of our neighboring countries and the Western world. I would also like to talk about a little bit on a few numbers also, which is, I think, which is pretty exciting for the investors, as well as it also depicts the economic challenges versus the opportunities in Pakistan. In Here in Pakistan, we have got almost like between 3 to 4% contribution of financial and insurance services, in the total GDP produced by Pakistan. This is considerably lower in the context of our neighboring countries like India and China, which hovers around 7%. So, having the same kind of dynamics in context to our neighboring countries, I think there is a huge potential for us to grow in this particular space. 80% of our financial services offered by the banking sector, we have seen almost a 50 to 20% jump in terms of new financial services coming from the third party investment companies here. So this we can see this 80% of financial services offered by banking services being replaced by the third parties or the private sector as well coming into the mix. We also have 15% of financial inclusion ratio as which is low in comparison to almost like 33% of the middle income countries around Pakistan. So there is a huge potential for us to leapfrog from 15% to come up with close to the average percentage, which is around 33%. So we have taken all of these steps, to attract investment as well as create policies where companies within Pakistan and outside Pakistan, they can come and start up with the newer applications and the newer fintech technologies, in this particular context. Almost, so this is worth also mentioning here, there are almost 25 million debt cards are expected to be converted into online payment mechanisms via the payment gateways. There are almost 4 to 6 different companies who have got licenses from State Bank to roll out payment gateways, domestic payment gateways in Pakistan. And at the government of Pakistan level, we are also en route to create an international payment gateway also at the government level, so that the remittances going in and out from Pakistan becomes very, very easy. We also have, in terms of economic challenges, I think it's also worth mentioning that we are positioned 68th position, globally in terms of logistic performance. What does it mean? Means that we are considerably lower in terms of delivering our delivering goods at the citizen's doorstep, if we are talking in the context of e-commerce space. So there international companies coming into Pakistan at this point in time, speaking to the government how they can an infrastructure of logistics so that this particular segment should be filled up with the right kind of resources, so that the e-commerce industry can boost up. In terms of technological challenges, versus the potential market, Pakistan is 92% of Pakistan's land has been covered by cellular network. Though the smartphone penetration is a little bit on the lower side, about 37 to 38%, but in the last 1 year, it has significantly gone up. And we project it to hit about 60% by the end of year 2021. And that is basically would be a reflection of the initiatives that we have taken, in the digital application space. We have also got a huge growth in the last 2 years on social media users. Almost 61% of the internet users in Pakistan are on social media in some form or the other. As I mentioned, we have also got an escalated growth of smartphone users in the last 6 to 8 months. But then so those are smartphone users are a little bit on the lower side in the context of the neighboring countries, but almost 96% of our all mobile services subscribers have their prepaid connections using USSD commands. So they're aware that if we are going to use our mobile phones, even when we do not have smartphones, still they are adopting readily in terms of any kind of a digital workflow to get their job done. So they can top up their phones by using USSD commands. They are also en route to create bank accounts to their mobile phones, even it's the feature phone using USSD commands. So I think things are moving very fast in the right direction. The initiatives that we have taken are in terms of challenges around the demographic challenges that we have. We know that our literacy level is around 59%, but one of the most heartening things that we have seen, that from that 59 to 60% of the literacy rate, our millennials comprise almost 88.
Very sorry, I believe we are experiencing some technical difficulties. I have also been informed that there were some technical difficulties at the start when we had our speaker Kulsum Lakhani. Very sorry about that. There have been some snags with the internet, a few audio lags. However, just to quickly recap, well, it was great listening to Mr. Shabahat talk about his experience and his thoughts. A seasoned professional in the field of FinTech. He has some wonderful ideas that are new to a lot of people, but they also reinforce what many people have said yesterday and what people are currently thinking about the role of government in enabling infrastructure and investment. I like what he said about the regulations for people to invest is one aspect, but then there are also regulations to help people ease them into adapting, and that's something that Mr. Ali Marwani spoke about yesterday. That you really have to look at the bigger picture and realize that in order to spread the usage of e-commerce across the board, you need merchants on board and you need to give them incentives to push the users to do that, because as you know, I mean, technology in a country like Pakistan is something that people will be a little that they are it is something that they are new to and perhaps a little apprehensive, but it really boils, it's a matter of time, and it depends on the government and obviously the players in the market as to how they're able to facilitate that. So I think that'll be a very interesting way things play out, and something I personally, as a person who has recently moved into the fintech field myself, are very eager to see how this plays out for a lot of the companies as well as the government. More on the government, we will be having a discussion later on by Mr. Shahzeb Ali, who's the commissioner at the SECP, and it'll be great to get his perspective on some of these points that have been discussed. Right now, however, we have a panel discussion which will be discussing the fintech investment in Pakistan versus the other emerging markets. And I think that's a great context because if you recall, there were some of our speakers at the fire chat discussion, fireside chat, that were talking about learning from markets like India and learning from markets like Bangladesh and trying to draw parallels and see what we can do differently in order to perhaps improve the way we have adapted to e-commerce here in Pakistan. So moving on to our panel discussion, it will be moderated by Mr. Mubrez Siddiqui. He will be joined by 6 panelists. Mr. Mubrez himself is, I believe we are on standby. Do we? I don't know if he has been able to log in as yet. Oh, they are logged in? Okay, wonderful. So you guys can just connect directly to them.